Hi everyone, welcome. I just finished doing my other live, and this is a live about learning to read tarot. So I am going to be covering the suit of swords. I said suit of wands before, excuse me. I already covered wands, I covered cups, and now I'm going to cover swords. So please like the video on the way in. I do have a membership that is dedicated to this. I asked general questions and a lot of you answered, so I'm going to be doing some of those answers, but I will in my membership tab for this particular reading about learning to read tarot with me. So if you're interested in reading tarot, check it out. It's $9.99 a month. And I promise you, as we grow, I will become more interactive. I want to start a Facebook group and all that kind of stuff. But the community does have to grow and so forth. So I'm dedicating my time and investing in you all. I highly recommend investing in something, until I really invested in tarot, in courses and stuff like that. I never really took things seriously, but I feel like if you invest in yourself, that's really such a great investment. And you do see it coming back. So just a little backstory. I have been reading tarot for almost 20 years. I can't believe it. I started when I was a teenager and it was also fun. And I left, I came back, but I've always done readings on myself and I read palms too. So I have always been a very intuitive person. So I do have some questions people have asked me. I have answers that I will do after I talk about the swords. So let's get into it. If you have any questions, like I will say again one more time because I see more people are joining, please join the membership and I will have time to answer it and all of that. And I really want to dedicate those who are. Hi, who's this? Strange Fruit. Hi, how are you, Strange Fruit? I'm well, thank you. How are you? I'm so grateful you joined the live. Thank you, thank you. So let's get into it. I want to start by saying thank you. And I always have to be grateful. And secondly, we're going to be talking about the suit of swords. So just a quick rundown. There are 78 cards in a traditional tarot deck. I like to use this one to do this rundown. It's the modern take of the traditional tarot deck that you might all be familiar with. The Wave Tarot, I believe it's called. That's actually the first tarot deck that I got. Was that I got it when I was 15, 16, and my mother got it at a market. And I've always, as a kid, been interested in like practical magic. I've always had strong intuition, so I've always been into like burning things, like burning sage, burning tarot. I mean, excuse me, burning tarot, burning sage, Palo Santo, you know, wands, earth, stuff like that. It's just always been my thing since I was a kid. I used to love Charmed. I used to have this. Oh my gosh, this is bringing back memories. But in my room, I had a dresser, okay, and my dresser was like right next to the roof. And I sometimes, oh my gosh, I used to be so naughty, but I would have my candles and I would burn things and just like look outside the to the garden because we had a really big garden and the roof, and I would just look and like wish things to happen. And I think I might have told this story before, but I'm just telling it again. When I really realized that I had the power to like manifest things and I was intuitive was when I think I was 11. I can't remember, or 12. Yeah, but I have told the story before. Check out my personal stories. But I'm just going to tell the story again because it's a fun story. But I had this teacher that was really mean to me. And I grew up in South Africa and England, mostly in South Africa. And in South Africa, you have to take English until you're in grade 7. You have to take English and another and another subject. I just looked at live and I'm, oh, my first live, yeah, OMG, me too. I love Charmed. Oh my gosh. So, because I was like into Charmed and the craft and stuff like that, I used to like burn my stuff. And I had this teacher, this Afrikaans teacher. So Afrikaans is a language in South Africa that's a derivative of Dutch. And I had to learn it. And one time, um, I had this speech. We had this speech to do, and I really didn't like Afrikaans, honestly. I, I've always been more drawn to um, the romantic languages like French, Spanish, Portuguese. Um, so I never really was interested in the languages in South Africa. They were always like just very boring to me. So, anyways, I was reading this speech and I worked so hard on it. And looking back, I'm like, I think that's why I stopped doing my homework and stuff because I really, for the most part, I had such mean teachers. I went to a very British school in South Africa. My teachers were so mean. Majority, 70%, just very mean, bully types. So I studied so hard for the speech. I was like, I really want to do good. I was in grade six. Yeah, I was in grade six. And I forgot her name. I think her name was Mrs. Borto, something like that. And I was reading the speech, and as I got up to read it, I started with something. I think I said Fanant, Goeiemorgen, something like that, which means good morning today. And I started saying my speech, and she was like, "What?" She like interrupted me constantly, and I was like, "Oh, I'm like," I tried to carry on, and I remember being just so scared, about this tall. She was like really tall. She used to wear this horrible perfume. Um, and she had like these really thick glasses and her lipstick was always all over her face. So I remember her just being like, I can't understand a word you're saying. And the whole class laughed at me and they were laughing and laughing. And I sat down, I was so mortified. I was so sad and like upset and angry. And at that moment, when everybody was laughing at me, I thought to myself, I'm going to make this woman sick. So I calmed down after that. I was full of rage and then I calmed down. And then after class, I heard her saying, I'm allergic to jasmines. I'm highly allergic. And I thought to myself, I looked at her and I was like, you're going to get sick. I'm going to make sure you get sick. So at night, I did my little candles, in my little room that I had created. And I burned my candles and I was like, I can't remember what I said, but I was like, I lighted candles, like, she's going to get sick. She's going to get sick. She's going to like, as a way to get vengeance on her, because I was a child. I couldn't really speak up for myself. But I just remember thinking, I'm going to get vengeance. I'm going to get vengeance. So I was lighting candles and I was saying, I can't remember what I said. So the next day we go into school and we have a different teacher. So everybody's like, where's Mrs. I think her name was Mrs. Porter. Everybody's like, where's Mrs. Porter? They're like, oh, she got sick. Somebody sent her flowers and it gave her an asthma attack and now she's in the hospital. And everybody was like, oh my gosh. And inside I was like, I cannot believe I did that. I cannot believe I made this person sick. So I was like, I really did that. And she didn't come back until we were gone, actually, because I was in grade six. Yeah, until the next year. So we ended up getting another teacher the next year because she didn't cover that grade. Um, but yeah, I never had her as a teacher ever again. And I was like, right. Yeah. But after that, I saw the power of it and I thought, I'm not going to do this to people anymore. So after that, I've only ever used it for good. You're funny, strange fruit. It like reminds me of Matilda. I also love Matilda too. And that's when I was so angry. When you were a child and I was like, this woman is just so mean to me. She used to be so mean to me. And that was the ultimate end of it. And I was like, you know what? This is it. I do have another story though. So I had this, I never did anything to him, but I had this colleague that I used to obviously work with, and he was kind of like a bully. He had a similar energy to the teacher that I'm talking about, and that I told the story about. And he was just very mean. He was a bartender where I used to work when I was a server, And he would just always just be a jerk to people, you know? So one time we got into a huge fight. We used to kind of be friends. He was like the kind of friend that I would constantly have to correct and be like, don't be mean about this person. Do you know that kind of friendship where you have to be the person's moral compass, you know? And one time I just had enough. He said something to me. I can't remember what he said. Oh, I didn't drink at that time. I don't drink anymore again, but I in between I did start drinking, but at that time I didn't drink. And he was like, "You think you're better than me because you drink?" Like I believe he had a drinking problem. So I was like, "No, I don't think I'm better than you." And he just went at me and he said horrible things to me. And I can't remember what I said back to him, but I remember just like blocking him off and thinking to myself, I never want to be around this person ever again. So a month passes, and I had stopped working at that job we had together. I took like a leave to work on school and stuff like that. Anyways, so a common friend of ours, a mutual friend, comes to me and says, "Hey, what happened?" I'm not gonna say his name. I'm gonna call him Matthew. So they're like, "What happened with Matthew?" And I'm like, "We just stopped talking to each other. We had a fight one day, and I stopped talking to him, and that's it, you know." They were like, "Well, that's not what he's saying. He's running around saying you cursed him because the week after you guys fought, he had 5 days in a row where horrible things happened to him." And I guarantee you, I had nothing to do with it, but it just reminded me of the story I was telling you guys that, like, you know, certain things can happen to people, but I had nothing to do with it. Okay, so I want to get into the swords. I just want to give you like a backstory. At the end, I'll also cover general questions that you all had about tarot and stuff like that. But just wanted to start off with like two fun, silly stories. Do you feel like being ruled by Saturn, Uranus, that part of your purpose? Yes, I do. Wow, that is so deep, strange fruit. I do. Wow, you've really been keeping. Yeah, I remember you from the beginning of my early days on my channel. Oh wow, thank you for sticking around. But yeah, I do feel the question. Let me read it out fully. Do you feel like being ruled by Saturn/Uranus, that part of your purpose is to be people's karma, to help them learn lessons morally through gifts? 100%. I 100% can tell you that a lot of the time when people do me dirty, I'll leave it alone and then something really bad will happen to them. And I'm like, that wasn't me. I had nothing to do with that. Because after what happened with my teacher, the guilt I felt from doing that to her, I was like, I'm never going to do this again. So I never did it again. But people often think that I do because I read tarot and stuff like that I'm hexing people, but I'm really not, you know. But it does happen. It's happened very frequently where somebody will do me very dirty, and as soon as they do, something really bad happens to them. So I can definitely see that being that's so profound. Thank you for sharing that, strange fruit. So, maybe we should have more story time like that. That was really fun. I loved you guys' commentary. Well, yeah. So I'm gonna start with swords. So swords, 100%. With great power comes great responsibility. I'm about to join the membership official. Oh yay, yay! I'm so happy. So I have two memberships, just by the way. One of them is all access to learn tarot and all the other benefits, all the other perks. The second one is just the perks. So you don't learn to read tarot with me. And what I mean by learn to read tarot is any questions you have about tarot. If you're learning tarot and you write in the membership community, because I post things up and I say, hey, what questions do you have? Blah, blah, blah. And if I write, if you have an answer, you can even contact me on social media and tell me you have this thing, you're going through this thing with tarot. I will be hands on with you and offer help and support and guidance. Okay, so let's start with the swords. Thank you for saying that, by the way, Strangefoot. I'm excited to have you. Decide whichever one works for you. I'm not going to pressure you. I don't like to be the pressuring type. Okay, so first, I just want to say Ace of Swords, excuse me, swords in general, the suited swords are air signs. Let me get that together. Air signs. So Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra are generally the energies, and it's often about thinking, um, really thought based, sometimes action, but a lot to do with thinking. So with Ace of Swords, like I said, has to do with thinking. So sometimes, when you just have this random thought that comes into your head, I often associate that with Ace of Swords. And like sometimes this happens to me a lot, especially with exes. I'll think about them and they'll like text me, or like for constantly, constantly, constantly. That's what I would describe as Ace of Swords. A thought that maybe somebody's thinking of you or wants to be with you. That kind of energy is what I get from Ace of Swords. Two of Swords is when you're in the mode, the energy of protection and preservation. And Two of Swords often means, you see how she's blocking herself off from everybody. And air signs, Aquarius, Gemini, Libra. I'm a Sun in Aquarius. I have a lot of Aquarius placements. I strongly believe that air signs, we need time to ourselves. Not necessarily Libras, but I definitely think Aquarius and Geminis need time to themselves, especially Aquarius. We need a lot of time to ourselves. That's why people think we're loners, but we're actually not. We just need time to absorb and to process things. And because of that, this sword energy, this is like time. She's taking time for herself. So whenever I see Two of Swords and I'm doing a reading on somebody, I get in the mode of what have they been through that they need to process as it, or what's their next plan of action that requires thinking. So with Three of Swords, you can see here, it's often when there's been a heartbreak, unfortunately, or something that hasn't gone the person that I'm doing a reading on's way, that they need time to kind of nurse how they feel. Four of Swords is an extension of that, where it is when somebody's feeling the fourth house. If you remember when we did cups, the Four of Cups is when a missed opportunity. So oftentimes when you miss, not necessarily a missed opportunity, but feeling like you missed out, which I suppose is a missed opportunity, but it's different to like an opportunity as opposed to thinking, you know. I don't know if that made any sense. So Five of Swords, if you guys remember when we did wands, 5 wands, often about competition. Five of Swords, the fifth house, is about when you get together with other people. So even though it can oftentimes be the feeling of, when you're surrounded by a lot of people, but you still feel lonely, that's the fifth house energy, Five of Swords. Like feel this feeling of like feeling empty, lonely, and feeling isolated, even though you're surrounded by lots of people. Six of Swords is when you take the time to be alone and move away from certain situations. So if you see here, these two people in a boat are moving away from one another, moving away from situation, and you have to surround yourself with swords. And that's why I often related to the fact that air signs, Aquarius, Gemini, Libra, we need space. We need time to think, to process things. And this Six of Swords energy is that taking some time away to process something or just to understand something. So Seven of Swords is when you have to kind of defend yourself and do so. The seventh house can be very dreamy, can be very volatile too. So this can be maybe a situation, sometimes when I read Seven of Swords, a situation that hasn't turned out in your favor, but you need to turn it into your favor. And how can you turn that into your favor? Eight of Swords is, I wouldn't say necessarily feeling betrayed, but feeling as though, sorry, there's something else in my room. So I might have to go check on it. But Eight of Swords is when you feel stuck. And I don't know if you remember Eight of Wands, but Eight of Wands was moving forward at high speed. But Eight of Swords is moving forward, but kind of alone, you know? And let me rephrase that. Eight of Swords is feeling stuck before you move on. And feeling a lot of sword energy is alone, like I said, because swords is about thinking, and you don't really think with other people, right? You think alone. Nine of Swords is when you have to face something. The ninth house is often about details. It's about logistics, and Nine of Swords is about facing something that might have really hurt you, facing something devastating, and facing something that can feel like it's over, but it's not, because Ten of Swords is when you feel like is really when it's over. Ten of Swords is like it's done. So this could be a relationship, this could be a work situation. Something is completely done and over. Knight of Swords is often representative of a person, and Knight, often charming. Um, they have this persona of being like, coming in. So this person is coming in. They might have been thinking about you, and they're coming in to tell you that. Usually, very, like I said, charming energy. Um, Knight of Cups is somebody that's like gonna sweep you off your feet. This person is coming in to tell you something that they've been thinking. Page of Swords is often about deeper, like finding out something deeper about somebody, and or wanting to find out something deep about somebody. And oftentimes with Page of Swords, it's related in the modern era with social media, looking up somebody, kind of superficially stalking somebody, not taking it to the next level and actually physically doing it, but doing it on a superficial level. The Queen of Swords, and Queen, I often say this, I joke sometimes with my friends, I'm like, I'm in Queen of Swords energy. And Queen of Swords, the Queen is the feminine energy. It doesn't have to be a woman, but is the feminine energy in a situation that's very stern, very logical. She knows what she wants, but she's also very mature. She doesn't have to say a lot of words. In fact, she's often detached from her emotions, but can be detached in a healthy way. So that's often Queen of Swords, like very to the point. King of Swords, in fact, I find myself a lot of the time Queen of Swords energy, very to the point. King of Swords is the masculine version of that, and it doesn't have to be a man, but is mature, knows what they want, doesn't say a lot of words. So sometimes they come across cold, but it's very stern and to the point. Well, they'll say two words and they get their message across. Um, they don't have to communicate with tons of words, but you get the message. And it's not always bad, they're just very firm. So, yeah, those are the swords. I'm also a sun in Aquarius. I was about to ask you. My moon is in Leo. Lots of fifth house. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I could see that. Are you February Aquarius or January Aquarius? Get the vibe of February Aquarius. Um, so whenever I do my Aquarius videos, do you understand what I'm talking about? Because I feel like when I hear people describe themselves, I'm like, that person's an Aquarius. We're different but the same. Like I have this colleague from before who had my birthday. But before I knew he had my birthday, he would say I remember him describing himself, and he said it takes me a long time to trust people. It takes me a long time to get to know somebody, and I don't trust a lot of people. And I was like, "You're an Aquarius." He was like, "Yes, I am." I was like, "When's your birthday?" It's like February 6th. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm February 6th." But when he said it takes a long time for us to trust people, a long time. January Aquarius, I'm literally what? Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, no, I can always tell Aquarius by when people Oh gosh, my favorite reader because I feel so seen. Oh, that makes me so happy to hear. Thank you so much. Yeah, but for the longest time, I say this a lot too. Even though I have Aquarius in my family, I've dated mostly Aquarius, I never understood myself until I understood astrology, And I'd be like, why do I do that? And if somebody would tell me something, I'd do the opposite of it. I was like, why do I do that? And I realized through astrology, which I can attribute to an ex of mine who really got me into astrology and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, until then, I really, really was confused about who I am as a person. But I really, when I turned 30, so I really got into astrology and really because I've always believed in astrology growing up. Um, I grew up in a family that's very into esoteric and stuff like that. So I always believed in other stuff. I just didn't fully understand astrology, and I always understood that it played a big part. Both my parents are scientists, and I've always felt like science is related to astrology in some kind of way. I've always loved sciences, which is very Aquarius too. um, and one of them is an Aquarius, so I totally can see that. So I've always wanted to bring it all together, and astrology is very, very fascinating, and it can really help you understand yourself. Yeah. So that's until I saw videos about Aquarius, I used to be like, why am I like this? I'm so weird. Even in high school, there was a time in my life, I used to party a lot. And then there was a time in my life when I was like, you know what? I just want to stay home, study, learn algebra, and that's it. And that's what I would do on the weekends. I stay in my room, I write out formulas or decide to paint or draw, and I was just over people. So we do have those polarities, and we're very, very complicated people. So thank you for watching Strange Fruit. And wow, this live went way over than I thought. I had so much fun. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And it really is because of you all that I do this. So please stick around and let's see. I completely agree. I also have an Aquarius parent. Yeah, definitely. Definitely interesting growing up. I must say, I don't think Aquarius parents and Aquarius children mesh well. I will say that because both want to get their own way. Um, so I will just say that. I don't think Aquarius, unless they both go to therapy, but unless that's the case, that's all I will say about that. I don't think, because my Aquarius parent and I, we don't get along. So, yeah. In fact, a lot of Aquarius, I've seen that too. A lot of Aquarius have issues with their mothers. I've seen that a lot. A lot. Um, yeah, that's just what I've seen. I've heard it's a position that's bad luck to buy your own tarot deck. Oh, yeah, actually, my first was gifted to me by my Aquarius parent. I don't think it's bad luck, but that's very interesting. But my first tarot deck was bought for me. So yeah. Okay, guys, it's been so fun, and I'm so grateful you all joined. Next week, I'll be doing it again. I've been doing my lives later because I've been having back issues, and I was told to strengthen my back by strengthening my core. So I've been going to core strengthening classes and stuff like that. So that's why I haven't been doing it earlier because I need to work on my core and stuff like that. So I go to the gym earlier and then I do my lives. Just to give you an explanation. That's a long explanation. But that's why. So I've switched the lives to later so that I can work on my spine and my belly because that's what I need to work on in these classes. So that's what I've been doing. So that's why I switched it. So please spread the word so we can get more people to come. My lives used to get a lot of people. Not that we need to have a lot of people. I don't do lives to have a lot of people, but it is nice to have an interaction where we can be we can grow the community and bounce ideas off of each other and share stories and stuff like that. So yeah, I look forward to growing this, and I love you all. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care.